if you've been tempted to resign your job because of the Great Resignation, then this one's for you. Hello everybody, my name's Mayuko and welcome back to my channel where I talk about tech, career, and life stuff. So it's hard to read the news these days without coming across the whole Great Resignation. Millions of Americans are resigning their jobs right now for probably a lot of different reasons. I think it's maybe because COVID has forced us to kind of slow down and reevaluate what we really want in life. And now that vaccines are out and stuff and things are starting to look a little brighter, we're all taking steps to live the life that we all want. And you know what? I think that's fine if that's like your motivation to like resign your job. Honestly, I'm not here to talk about that today, like why you should or shouldn't leave your job, because that is such an individual journey, case by case situation, like just so many factors that you're the only person who can make that decision. But what I did want to talk about is just like, how do you actually do it? You know, as a friend, from me to you, maybe we're new friends, hello, nice to meet you. Like, how do you do it responsibly? What are the things that you think about? Just like, I'm just here to give y'all some advice, I suppose, if you wanted to talk to somebody about this whole Great Resignation thing. Granted, this is very one way, but I've thought a lot about how like I go about resigning jobs, and so yeah, just wanted to have a little comfy, cozy tea time where we talk about that today. By the way, thank you to Brilliant for sponsoring today's video. If you'd like to learn more about Brilliant, then you can check the link in the description box down below or stick around to the end of the video. So a lot of my friends, colleagues and stuff, they're all switching jobs, they're all quitting jobs, they're all doing all of this. I've quit a couple of jobs now, and I feel like I have this formula for how I think about quitting jobs and what are the things that I'm thinking about to make sure that I can quit them responsibly. Because as a very risk-averse Asian American woman who needs to fend for herself in this day and age in America, whatever else that all comes with, I always leave jobs responsibly. The unfortunate thing about America-ish, I don't know if it's unfortunate, but it just is the way that it is that you can't like just leave your job and everything else stays in place. Unfortunately, there's a lot of things tied up in employment in America. Of course, the salary and your livelihood is one part, but also things like health insurance and your financial investments and stuff like that can also be tied up in your whole employment. And so I think it's important, you know, that if you're thinking or you've decided to leave, to like do it responsibly, I suppose. By the way, I don't know if any and all of this advice is gonna apply to you per se, but me coming from a tech background, Asian American background in which I don't like burning bridges or getting rid of opportunities that I don't need to get rid of. These are just all my thoughts. So just keep that in mind. These are very subjective, my 2 cents. So if you're thinking about quitting, I think my question would be like, what are you gonna do after you quit? Like what's your plan if you have one? You know, and I think that really depends on your comfort level and your risk tolerance, because you know, if you're pretty risk averse, you're probably gonna have or want to have a job lined up after you quit your current one. Or if you're pretty okay with risk, then you might be like, I don't know, I'm just gonna see where the wind takes me and see what happens. If you're gonna get another job, then you know best about that. You are gonna know what you have to do in order to get that job. It probably looks similar to how you got your current job. You're gonna know better about what roles are out there and how to interview and the timeline of interview. So I'm gonna leave you with that because you know how to do this. So, you know, if you're chilling, like maybe you need to find time to like rediscover yourself, or you just gotta recover from some burnout or whatever that might be, you just like need a break, that's cool. But for me, when I'm like just trying to chill, I always need some sort of backup plan, because like the world will keep on moving without you, even if you're chilling. A lot of people talk about having like 3 months of like living expenses as a rule of thumb to have in your savings account for this kind of chilling period, or even really just as like a good backup, you know? Because, you know, I always think of like, what's the worst that could happen? Like, what if I don't feel like going back to work in 3 months? Or I do feel like going back to work in 3 months, will I reasonably be able to find a job? So another part of the calculation for this whole like just chillin' scenario is like thinking about how reasonably you could get a job again if you really needed to in a pinch. Because you know what? You can't control what happens in life and in the world and to you. Like, So many different things can happen, and sometimes in that period, you're gonna need a job, whether it be for income or for health insurance or for stability or whatever. I think it's just an important thing to factor in, even if you really don't want to think about work right now. At the end of the day, we gotta support ourselves and we have to do what we have to do in order to survive and thrive. So yeah, make sure you leave enough money in your savings. Whenever I left a job and I was just chilling, I made a spreadsheet, you can see it here, of all of my expenses of like, what do I need to do life? And just be really realistic about that, and then figure out, okay, how long do I want to be chilling? Multiply those months times the expenses, and I have how much I should have in my savings, or at least how much I should have before I reasonably run out of some sort of expendable money that I don't mind spending. So yes, you know, expenses is a big thing to think about when you're leaving your job. And I know you've probably thought about this, like that's probably one of the things that like, stuff ain't free, rent isn't free, food isn't free. So I'm sure you've thought about it, but you know, just in case you haven't, just wanted to let you know, because it's one thing that really helps you to be realistic about this whole quitting thing. And also, if you're the type that you're just like a free spirit and you're fine with like leaving your job and you haven't done the math, that's fine too. But just so long as you're also willing to like deal with it, like as long as you take responsibility for your choices, honestly, that's fine. And also at the end of the day, like your life is yours, it's not mine. So like, I'm not trying to dictate what you should or shouldn't do. It's just, if I were to do it, this is how I would think about it. All right, so the next thing, healthcare. Healthcare is heavily tied to your employment in the United States. And chances are, if you're full-time employed, you also got your healthcare from your employer, unless you have a partner or you're a dependent or something like that. This always depends on your policy, obviously, and your provider and stuff like that. But if you have healthcare through your employer, it's gonna disappear at some point. So a lot of the times it'll be till the end of the calendar month that you quit. Sometimes to the end of the year. I don't think that's actually super common. I know for my vision and dental, I think insurance, it usually goes until the end of the calendar year. But for like health, medical bills and stuff like that, it's usually to the end of the month. So if your healthcare disappears, then how are you going to get healthcare? Because it's important to be insured in case something happens. The US Department of Labor provides something called COBRA, which stands for Consolidated Omnibus Budget Reconciliation Act. It basically allows you to continue your health insurance, your current policy, your current provider after you finish or you quit or you leave a job or something like that. But you have to pay the insurance out of pocket, and oftentimes it's really, really expensive. I think for mine, when I left Patreon, COBRA was like $600 a month or something like that. And you know that's expensive when you're not making any income. At least it was for me at the time. So if you're someone who has a lot of medical bills, or you foresee certain medical bills or operations or things that need to come up, for me, I always take care of my eyes, and so I always think about like, all right, well, gotta get my annual checkup on my eyes because they're really bad, and I also gotta got my contacts and stuff like that. I will kind of plan my leave around that, basically. And there's also other benefits, right? Like not just healthcare, but also like maybe you get a gym stipend, or you get like commuter benefits, or you get education stipend or something like that. Those all disappear when you leave, and so just make sure you're like taking care of that and you're like good in letting things go, or you have an option to continue them. It could also include things like stock options, which you should definitely check when's the last day you can buy your options or buy your stocks or whatever, because that can, you know, make a difference in your financial future too. I think the last thing that like I always really take care of in doing, like whenever I leave a job, is to really take care of my relationships. Like I don't want to burn bridges if I don't have to, I guess. Because you just never know what's gonna happen in life, you know? Like you might do a career switch, or you might take a career fall, or you might end up working with one person you had one interaction with once. And so your first impression on that person really matters. Like so many different things can happen in life that I always think about, like, how can I leave the most doors open for myself without compromise? And also without hurting my chances of anything per se. And so realistically to me, that means when I'm leaving a job, I keep really warm, positive relationships with the people at the company that I'm leaving. So even if like the company that I'm leaving, I'm like not happy with it, it's usually like not the case that it's the people that I worked with that I'm unhappy about per se, like directly. And so my managers and stuff like that, I've had a really warm relationship with them, my coworkers and stuff too, because here's the thing, like if you work in any industry, it tends to be that the industry is pretty small. And so I feel like reputation is also kind of important, not for like vanity things, but it's just for like future opportunities. How people perceive you is also going to result in real life opportunities and benefits and stuff like that. And so, I mean, really all it comes down to is just being nice and respectful and communicative. Also because you might need to go back to that job one day. Like you just never know. Like there's such thing as like a boomerang job where you start at a company and then you leave that company, but then you end up boomeranging back. So if you ever really need that job back or you really want that job back after some distance, even if you know you're not gonna go back, it's always just good to keep your options open. And you know, the whole thing about like leaving jobs is like it's a privileged position to be in. You either don't need a job because you can afford not to have a job, or you have a lot of different options for jobs, which is also a privileged position. So I think it's important to honor that you have and accept that you have the privilege. And then sometimes just take that opportunity if you want to and need it and because you can. Don't do it just because everyone else is doing it, you know? Like that it's like you have to make decisions for your own self and what's best for you, because you're the only person who knows what's best for you and you have to advocate for yourself. I think with the internet and with information and stuff like that, we all are learning and really truly learning how different we are from one another, and how the human experience cannot be summed into one sentence, one paragraph, one book, or really anything at all, because we're all just so different from each other. And when we all really actually don't know each other that well, the only person we can guarantee that we know well is ourselves. So as much as I know it's like very easy to go with the crowd and do what you feel like you want to do because everyone else is doing it, do it because you want to do it, you know? Like, do it because it's right for you and your journey and your future. I think that's what, like, leaving your job responsibly means. And, you know, it's a hard decision to make. I'm not gonna lie about that. Every one of my jobs that I left, it was very difficult, and I cried a lot about them, either because it was hard or because I was sad or because I was frustrated or whatever. So yeah, you know, it's just leaving a job is a very personal decision, and I respect whatever you do at the end of the day. And you also will never quite know if this decision was the right one. So you gotta just trust your gut, trust your instincts, really listen to what you want, and then maybe down the road you'll figure out how this decision affected others. But you know, it'll be okay. You'll get there. Like it'll all be fine. Just do it responsibly and do what's right for you. So if you're thinking of leaving your job and you're either thinking of learning some new skills or maybe taking the time to learn something new while you're away from your job, then definitely check out Brilliant. Brilliant is a problem-solving based website and app with a hands-on approach with over 60 interactive courses in math, science, and computer science. All of Brilliant's courses are really interactive because they really believe in learning by doing instead of just watching lectures or something. So they have some really great courses on computer science, for example, if you've always been thinking about learning how to code. Like Python, for instance, is a really popular first programming language to learn, and so they've got a course on that too. Of course, there's no tests or grades for any of these, and you can take these courses at your own pace. If you'd like to join me in a community of 8 million learners and educators today, click the link in the description box down below or visit brilliant.org/hello mayuko. Thanks everybody so much for watching today's video, and I'll see you next time. Bye.